Welcome back, family. Welcome back. And I'm going to say it one more time, just so Tyrone, wherever he is, can make fun of me. Welcome back. So good to have you all on a Monday, the eve of Black History Month day. And we're going to talk to you just wait and see. You're in for a treat. Three illustrious educators who care so deeply about the culture. Not when you know how people say for the culture. These three people I know personally truly care for the upliftment and perpetuation of Black culture as they reflected in our young people. But I'm not going to say too much about that now. I'm going to let them talk about the program that they have going on, amongst other things, later. So happy to have you here, folks and family. Please share the live. Our brother Tyrone is handling some fatherly business today, as he always does. Not able to be here just at the moment. He may get to the show. But in the meantime, I'm your host, William, and we are joined by three educators from Fort Worthington Elementary Middle School, Mr. Darren Richey, Miss Erica Lay, and Miss Shoshana Jackson. I'll let them speak a little bit in a moment. But right now is the connection question, family. So if you're out there joining us, we want to see your answers in the chat. And again, you're going to share this live, please, like you always do. Send in those comments and great questions for our three guests here. But the question is, who is your favorite, or one of your favorite, or maybe even two of your favorite Black heroes, and why? And so I'll go first. And for me right now, it's Dr. Rudolph Windsor, who wrote a nominal book for me. It's called Babylon, From Babylon to Timbuktu, the history of ancient Black people, and including the ancient Hebrews. It's a phenomenal, I would say, seminal work in exploring Black culture that is widely left out of academia when you're talking about the ancient peoples of the Bible. So Rudolph Windsor is right now at the top of my list. But like you all have said, it's a vast list. How can you narrow it down to one or two people? We'll start with ladies first, though. Miss Jackson, give us your two or three or four or five.
How did I know you was gonna start with me? So I'm gonna go with two, because we're on a time frame and I don't want to hog it up. But I have to honestly say Langston Hughes. I learned about Langston Hughes actually in the fourth grade when we did Mother to Son. And at that time, I didn't live in a community like Fort Worthington, so I lived in South Baltimore. But my teacher was from Chicago, and she definitely shed light on this man, this author before his time, who actually made it his duty to inform youngsters, older people about the struggle in which, African Americans from then to now would face. And right now, I feel like Mother to Son right now is something really big that's happening amongst a lot of young men with their moms, the dialogue of how times are hard, but you still have to persevere. And even then, now in my seventh grade class, we're actually reading Harlem, which is by Langston Hughes, which is actually discussing a dream deferred. So it's now bringing relevancy to the now students who actually really have given up hope or aspiration of a dream. So now, with the help of Sister Lay and Brother Richey, who are actually helping me initiate as well as enforce or even implement that you don't have to have a deferred dream. You don't have to be delayed in it. You can still make your dream happen. The second person I chose was Toni Morrison. I chose her mainly because her work is so powerful that even now in many school systems, they don't want it to be in there. And it talks about the social injustice, the systematic racism, or even just the sexuality, or even if we take it further, just what went on into the Black community that was taboo. So when you're teaching it in literature, it opens up a whole different Pandora's box, where no matter how old you are, how young you are, you see her writing at a different level, especially The Bluest Eye. That was probably one of her most phenomenal works that I read. And actually, I did all these readings in high school, not middle school. So being able to actually open the door for my 7th graders who, aren't as exposed yet, but have this tenacity and hunger to learn about these prominent people. So those are my
Thank you.
heroes.
Thank you, Miss Jackson. A little bit of a dissertation there. We got to have you all back. I already know. Miss Lay, and then to the good brother Richey.
Okay, so mine are actually on 2 surprising ends of the spectrum, but I like it. I'm gonna stick with my 2 that I thought that came to mind. The first one is Ruby Bridges. And I say that because although she was very, very young and probably did not understand the magnitude at that time of what she was unfolding, I believe that that is a message that is very, very relevant to now, because there are a lot of things that our children will and should be able to do that many people don't necessarily think that it's a big thing. It's just the issues of the Black community. It's just something simple. But just teaching them that even if you come from a certain environment, if you come from an area where things are usually restricted and cut off, your access to those things are cut off, that if you are willing to step into the ring, like, it's a fight that you can win. And I think that Ruby Bridges is a great testament to that, because at such a young age, I would have been like, Mommy, I'm not going to that school. But just the fact that even going through what she went through emotionally and mentally at such a young age, but to be able to persevere and set a precedent that has really changed the face of what education is for our children is huge. And then the second is Miss Debbie Allen. You guys know I love the arts. And I think when I watched The Chocolate Nutcracker, that really, really deepened my love for her, because I realized that a lot of what she does, it's not about the glitz and the glamour for her. It's about the opportunity for access. And again, that's a thing with our children, especially, that is shut off. Usually in schools, when they are cutting funding or they're removing programming, the arts are the first things that they remove. And a lot of the students that even attend her studios are students that may not necessarily be able to pay or be able to afford what the cost of her training would be, because she is so skilled. But she allows them that access, and that access just opens the door to so many other things. So she's definitely one of the unsung heroes, I would say, for sure.
Wow, superb. I mean, we're only into connection, family. We haven't even gotten into the Q&A, and already the passion is exuding from our guests here. Okay, brother Richey, how about you, sir? What say you?
I was trying to stay away from this, but I'm going to stay in my lane of music. I have 2 very big people that I think are absolutely amazing as heroes, because of what they will not tolerate. One of my very favorite people, I always said when I was a kid, I wanted to be him. Mine is 2 things that he did in his life I wasn't so happy with. Those was Ray Charles. If you take a look at his life in general, and how he grew up, there's a particular time where he was playing in the South and he was on his way into a segregated theater, and he turned the entire band around, the entire bus around, after he really heard the movie depicts it as a conversation between him and a fan. And he literally stopped the entire show and said, "We will not play in any more segregated arenas." And I think that was very powerful, because you would think that in a day and time now where a lot of artists bend to be popular, it takes a major person to stand out amongst the crowd, and to definitely turn and do the complete opposite as to what everybody else is doing. Interesting, same, Billie Holiday, that's also my other person. Song of hers, Strange Fruit. The new movie that just came out that explored her, mind-blowing, because you saw the back end of what she had to go through in order to get that song out, the hatred that she received. If you ever take a look at the movie Lady Sings the Blues, where Diana Ross plays that, you will also see a scene where it kind of shows how she came about with that song, and just riding through those particular times. And as an artist, piggyback on Ms. Lay, as an artist, our job is to, Beyonce quotes this very famously, our job is to reflect the times in whichever we live in. And I think those two did a superb job at reflecting the times that they have, whether it be standing up for something or whether it be writing the music that they write and having it reflect the time. So those are my two heroes from a musical standpoint. So many others I could name, but for those two reasons, they literally stand out amongst the crowd and they really just go for what they know is right. It may take them a minute to get there, but they definitely go for what is right.
Thank you, Brother Rich, and thank you all so much for that. We are joined by three fine educators, Mr. Darren Richey, Ms. Shoshana Jackson, and Ms. Erica Lay, all from Fort Worthington. And I was really excited because not only are they deep in their knowledge of Black history and the perpetuation of it, but they created an academy to facilitate that passion, that knowledge, and that depth. We're going to get to that. Tonight's show is called Making the Most of Black History Month, which is exactly what these three good people epitomize. Ms. Lay, I'd like to start with you. Give us a history on, just briefly, how did Black History Month come to be? I know growing up, well, I'll speak for myself. We learned early the roots of it, but I don't think a lot of greater America, if you will, know how pivotal it was and the roots. How did it come to be? Who started it? About what time, the reasons, and why? Ms. Lay? And then we'll go to Ms. Jackson and Mr. Richey if you'd like to add on.
All right, so it actually began as just a week, which is pretty crazy to think of encompassing all of the rich culture that we have into 1 week's worth of exposure. But that was started by Dr. Carter G. Woodson. And then eventually a professor, I do not want to mess up this man's name, so I'm not going to say his name, but a professor from Texas A&M actually then took it further to start Black History Month, which I think is very interesting that even had to be a push for it to be a month, but that's my personal opinion. But the larger part of that too is that now with it just being a month, I think that for us as educators, that has become something that is like, it's teetering on the fence of it's just a thing of inclusion for the sake of inclusion. And I think that that's something that it moving from a week to a month is great, but I think that now we got to take it from a month to year round.
Beautiful, concise. Thank you. Ms. Jackson?
What's funny, I don't want to say funny, but what's very interesting about what's actually what Mother Lay has stated, we were just having a conversation, my students and I, about all the great people, unsung heroes, all the heroes we do know, how we're not learning about them daily. How can we add them into content? How can we add them into literature? How can we add them into the music, the arts, the technology? And I think we don't have to put a cap on how often we're educating about Black history. Our principal and our leader at Fort would love to teach it all day, every day. That's something she says she wants to gauge. So knowing that it sparked our own fires to even go back and research, to go back to the basics of not just the people we know, but what about the people we don't know? Like, what about those people that seems to have been forgotten? So it's like, now I'm going the extra mile to go ahead and start researching, because now I'm like, I want to learn. I want to know. And now my students, they want to know. They want to learn, because they're like, oh, we heard about this person, but tell us about something we don't know. And I was talking to Lay about literally making flashcards and having my students become people they've never heard of. One card will be somebody you know, the other card somebody you don't know. And how we're going to make it relevant is that you, after you do your research, you tell me what it was like in that era. You tell me how much you had a profound effect during this era to now, how you can now make a difference. Now, even though some of these people may be deceased, you are now reenacting that Black hero, that Black man, that Black woman you didn't know about. So it's taking history to a higher level, not forgetting those we do know, but letting them be the foundation for us to research the people we don't know, the people we've never heard of. There are people where I'm like, ooh, they Black? I didn't know that. So now, and I am an educator, and it isn't merely out of ignorance. It's just out of that cap of we just gonna hype in our matriarchs, the civil rights, that. But let's talk about Tulsa. A lot of people didn't know about the Tulsa was the first Black Wall Street. A lot of people didn't know that Billie Holiday is the one who created the strong strange fruit at the Emmett Till death. So these are people. But what about those smaller people who played a major role to voicing a lot? So that's where I'm at.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson, as always. Brother Richie, if you'd like to add to the roots of Black History Month, you can. If not, I can ask you the next question.
It's hard to follow behind these two ladies at any point in time. It's very much a struggle. I mean, absolutely terrible. But what I'm going to push in this particular piece is I'm so grateful that Ms. Lay shouted out the HBCU that kind of pushed it. And that speaks to the particular portion of a lot of where Black History Month came from. And a lot of the things that evolved in Black history started around HBCU campuses, like the promotion of, I won't say, forgive my phrase, but us as a people. It's a highly promoted, speaking as a proud, almost 2-time HBCU graduate, it is very important that you are in a culture, or you're at least given the opportunity to be placed in an environment where you matter. And so that was when I looked up, because there's no point of me, they gave all the correct answers as to how it started. But the HBCU experience and the fact that it was pushed from there to be pushed out and to see what can come out of a group of people that you see every day, and the talents and the different things that you can see on an HBCU campus at large. And so I'm very glad. I was just gonna pull that little string, definitely, that Ms. Lay definitely said that was started the particular school, Texas A&M, which is still alive, thriving, and kicking today. Absolutely fantastic school. Definitely, I'm very happy about that. So that was my particular piece on it. Again, it's hard to follow after these two.
Indeed. Ms. Lay, I'd like to ask you, before we get too far into questions, I wanted to highlight what you all are doing at Fort Worthington. I think it's greater than noteworthy. I think it's profound. It is very inspiring. I am like the stepchild member, because I couldn't get myself together. I would have loved to be a part of this. This is like a collective, what we have going on what you all have going on at the fort. I missed the boat, unfortunately. I was invited, but I missed the boat. Yaja, I did see your question. Matter of fact, let me do that. Ms. Lay, while you think about the roots of the academy, let me bring Ms. Yaja. Ms. Yaja is one of our faithful audience members. Thank you so much, Ms. Yaja, for joining us. Ms. Yaja's favorite person is Maya Angelou. She says, for the tenacity she showed with surviving her abuse at such a young age and using her words to inspire others around the world. James Baldwin, for the same reason. Yes, James Baldwin, very unsung. And then also, we'll save this question for later, but she says, what obstacles do you all foresee in the near future, given the age we are in with whitewashing history in the US? Very, very pertinent question, Ms. Yaja. We will pick back up on that. Ms. Lay, can you give us the roots of the name and the roots of the academy at Fort Worthington that you all have it's fresh out the gates, pioneering it.
Oh, but Mr. Richardson, you are not the stepchild. You are always welcome. Wow. So the Fort Conservatory of Performing Arts, also affectionately known as FCPA, it was birthed out of a crazy conversation with some pretty dope people, honestly. I think that it started off with, okay, let's just do this, and it has grown and grown, and it's still growing. And I think from what I can say, just definitively, it really birthed just out of a passion to not only educate our children in the arts, but to give them the opportunity to showcase what they can do when they have the proper guidance and they have fertile ground in order to grow. I think that especially in a K, so we have a K-8 school, and it makes it very difficult, especially for our older children sometimes, to really explore their creativity in those ways because they're kind of limited to the more elementary schedule because of the way that the building is shared. And this gives them the opportunity to dig a little deeper. We've had the opportunity now to take them on a field trip. We took them to see Dreamgirls with Art Centric at Center Stage, and just to see them, I mean, it was like somebody flipped the switch. They lit up. They were singing. They even took time to like research on their own, and just seeing like the passion, like, because you see little tinges of things in the classroom, and you're like, oh, I kind of, I wish I knew what they could do. But now after school, we get the opportunity to not only allow them to perform, but to learn about what it means to be a performer. What does that mean for you as a person, as a whole? You're not just the sum total of just, okay, you can perform, you can dance, you can sing. But these things allow them to express themselves and have that creative outlet that a lot of our children do not have. And within their community, a lot of them, there aren't a lot of dance studios. There aren't a lot of programs that are providing this, or there are programs, but they are so expensive that parents either, one, can't afford it, or parents can't get them to it because parents are at work or they're at school or those different things. So FCPA really just was birthed out of just a burden that was placed on our hearts, honestly, to provide them with the very things and the mentorship and the love that we've had. And I think that Mr. Richey, Mrs. Jackson, Mrs. Bingham, they have done a great job in just bringing, like, because they can tell you, they'll be like, what's your vision for this? And I'm like, I mean, they're like, well, can you write it down? So, and I just love them because honestly, they just take the ideas and the craziness that I throw at them, and they're just like, all right, cool, let's do it. And that has, it has just gone above and beyond anything that I ever even thought that it was going to be when we had that first conversation. And it is growing, but I'm glad that it's growing because it is planting a seed that's going to take root and it's going to continue to grow.
Absolutely. Ms. Jackson, can you bring us in logistically? Is this a before school program, during school program, after school program? How does it work?
Daily? No. It's an after school program, but I got to piggyback on something that Lay said. It's exposure to our children. When we realize the Fort is literally a city on a hill in the 21213 community. Outside of everything surrounding it, we're their only hope. So our children come there with an expectation. Sometimes their drive is just to see us. Other times it is to be a part of FCPA. And gosh, if we have to cancel for whatever reason, they walk away upset. Like, oh man, not even for 5 or 10 minutes, that we find ourselves still doing rehearsal. We find ourselves just giving them the outlet. And as you stated, as Mother Lay did state, there are things in their community, but it's not allowing them to be able to express themselves in a more positive way, or giving them that platform to be able to be exposed, to see something new, to know that, hey, I have a gift that's within me. I just needed to be stirred up. I needed to be perfected, or I even needed to just be touched on, or just say, hey, you can do this. You just need a little bit of encouragement. Because when I tell you that we have some of the most gifted young men and women in there, blows me away. And they don't even realize that they are gifts. It's one thing, because we're firm believers. There's one thing in talent, and then there's another thing in gifts. And they honestly know that gifts can come only from on high. But one thing about a gift is you treat it with care. And knowing that we have all of our students, we don't treat them like that student. We treat them like who they are. They are innocent kids who need the structure, but just need a chance. In spite of wherever they are, from middle school on up, if there are behavior challenges or struggles, the FCPA brings them back into reality and expectation, but it still allows them to still be able to have that dream, to be able to say, okay, I can still do what I want. I can still have the diligence. I can still have the structure, and I can still feel the love from my educators. Because one thing we are at FCPA, we the doctor, we the lawyer, we the everything. We are everything to those children, honestly speaking. And I look forward to the after school program when I'm done teaching, because it brings them joy. like Mother Lay say, the way we started out, we all started out as just individual people for after school programs, and we just really started connecting. It was like, boom, we're that missing piece to the fort. Because no, we're not an art school, but our vision, like Mother Lay said, our vision is bigger than what our vision is with Fort. We're hoping that in the next not even 5 years, that we'll become the next school for the arts, if not better than. But it won't be just geared to children who actually are perfecting their art. It'll be a child to say, you know what, I want to learn theater. I want to learn dance. No, I don't have that background, but I have that confidence. No, I don't have that strategic structure, but I have that willing heart. No, I don't have that knowledge, but I'll research it. And that's what we're teaching our children now. We have our Google Classroom. And it's just amazing to see that they're posting up their dances. You know, they're posting up, hey, what's going on? Is this happening? They're learning communication. They're learning credibility, accountability. They're learning inclusion. They're also learning that, hey, it's okay to not be cast out because you live somewhere, that you can still stand out and go beyond where you at. And that's the biggest thing, because one thing about our culture is that we teach our children to just settle. See, at FCPA, you're not settling. You are great. I tell my kids, don't be good. Don't be so busy being good that you miss your own greatness. You have to be greater. Do better than us. Be better than us. You know, do that instantaneous thing that we didn't do.
Thank you so much, Ms. Jackson. Mr. Richey, I would ask you, kind of harping a little bit on Miss Lay's idea of extending the month, African American history, Black history, from a month to a year. Do you see opportunities for teachers to do that, Mr. Richey? And you know, like we've been saying, it feels like we're relegated to a month, which is impossible. You can't even talk about all of the history of the Black peoples of this United States in a month, not to mention all of the Black peoples that dwell in the four corners of the earth. But Mr. Richey, do you see, it's kind of a twofold question, because people feel limited in that month, or say limited to that month, and then they don't see how they could extend. What are your thoughts on that?
I absolutely believe that I absolutely believe that it can be extended. Shout outs to one of the Fort staff members, Mr. Downey. He literally every day in our morning announcements has a Black history fact that happens on that actual day. So if today is January the 31st, there is a Black history fact that happened on January the 31st, whatever day it was. I believe that there are absolutely a mountain of opportunities. I think two things have to happen though. One, you have to be brave enough to actually want to go, and like a lot of things just come with bravery. I think you have to be brave enough to want to take that in action on. I think you have to really be brave enough to defy the odds and say, hey, we're not going to just limit this to 1 month, 1 week, or whatever time frame that it's given. Let's extend this and let's look for this every single day in what we're doing, how we're living, how we're breathing. I think that is you have to be brave enough. Two, working with the right people to give those, to finding those right connections. These two great people that I have, and including yourself, Mr. Richardson, all of you great people I have the opportunity to work with, and no one person has it all. And so there are things that Mr. Richardson knows that I probably will never know, and I need to figure out. Same thing with Ms. Lay, same thing with Ms. Jackson. I definitely see this going. I think teachers can have the access to go to do this definitely beyond just a month. I am a person that tries to find it in your everyday life, find it in your everyday walk. If you can match it up, and that's why I started with Mr. Downey's daily Black history fact, because if you can find it in your daily, it can kind of become more, it can become more part of you. It can become habitual. It can literally become who you are. And so I believe that there are opportunities for teachers. One, you have to be brave enough to want to create those opportunities. Like there's no way that you can know it all, and be okay with not knowing that. And even, I'll step out there and even as far as to say, even if you look like the person next to you, you still might want to ask that question. You might want to ask that question because again, there are things that you cannot know. So I think you need to be brave enough. I think we have to be brave enough to reach that. So do I think that there are more opportunities for us to extend this beyond a month? Absolutely. Also finding a student's area of interest. That's one of the things I love about FCPA. I'm just going to drive it back there for just a second. Not every kid is interested in sports. I'm not knocking them. Not every kid is interested in technology, even though that is the way of the world. But I think finding ways to incorporate these things into our daily lives, you gotta pique students' interest. That was one of the first things I was taught as an educator. You gotta find out what students' interests are. And because the first thing that they're gonna say when it comes to Black history is, why does this matter? It happened so long ago. There's no relevance to today. And that simply is not true. The things that have happened yesterday, the things that are even happening now, they are relevant to your life. And if we find a way to make it relevant for students, find out what their interests are, not even their interests, step outside of their interests and figure out some of their issues and problems, because they can be tied to something somewhere. And once you tie it in, you can definitely from there run with the fact that, okay, we're going to study this today. We're going to study that today. How does the situation with Emmett Till relate to what we see today? How does this relate to this today? What are the similarities and differences? So I believe there are multiple opportunities. Also giving teachers that space and opportunity to do those things. So many things that we can do. We can stay here for about 3 hours and literally write down possible solutions. But I really think that it is absolutely, my mentor from when I taught high school always says it's doable. It's highly doable. It can be done. And I think the biggest thing is just being brave enough to want to do it and to have those conversations and those moments. It's highly doable.
Thank you, Mr. Richey. You kind of sparked something because I was thinking as you spoke, and we were on the same wavelength about the practicality of every day. And there's so many inventions, there are so many innovations that were born of the African-American mind in this country and the world over. Practical things, and when you tell a child, it blows their socks off, it blows them away, you know, to know about these things that are being used, traffic light, the fork, the super soaker. There was something on the engineer for the super soaker the other day. And we can go on and on, like you said, we can spend hours on this, but that's an entry level practical. I mean, you know, one of the questions is how can we help teachers in this? You could just Google Black inventions. You could just Google, and the nuance is this. Here's the struggle that I think, and let me get off my soapbox because I'm not the guest. I'm the interview. I'm sorry, but this is what you all do to me. But the nuance is this: we are human beings. We are human people. We have tried so long to prove our humanity. And it is just a constant juxtaposition for our people every day, the world over, not just here in the United States. And all of the things that you are teaching and showing the kids, it's like it's something foreign and new. And it's been, you know, since the beginning of this country and this nation, we've been creating, we've been inventing, we've been fighting, of course, we've been celebrating, we've been stamping this nation with who we are as a people. But it's amazing to look at just practical everyday things, because I don't think people realize, oh, you know, a Black person did this, or a Black person did this, or this was created. The assumption is all the creativity, all the innovation, all the scientific prowess, all the academic prowess, all of those things do not come from our community. It's something that we have learned from other communities, and that's far from the case. It's just my 2 cents. You see what y'all do? Y'all got me all up. Now I got to go back and look at my notes. While I get myself together, here's what Yaja has to say. Thank you, Miss Lay, of course. Lonnie Johnson, yes, a super soaker engineer and creator. I want to go back to Miss Yaja. Miss Yaja says that she applauds Mr. Downey to give a Black history fact every day. please pass it on. And then we are going to try to find those out, probably offline. Rebecca wants to know if he can share those facts. So we'll try to make that happen. But there are many guides. You can honestly Google daily Black history facts. It's really not that difficult nowadays, which is wonderful with technology and again, innovation, to just Google those things, Black history calendars, and on and on. 365 years of Black. There's all kinds of resources that if you want to know, you can have. Ms. Yaja, also, thank you so much, Ms. Yaja, so supportive. She says, giving these students the opportunity to have extracurricular activities that is not tied to sports is so awesome. She's so right. That's another thing that we I think pejoratively struggle in with our community. I was an athlete, but I was also a scholar. I love to read, but part of it is the American culture glamorizes sports so much and academics to a much lesser degree. Our community has bought into that, unfortunately, of late. It's not the way it's always been in our community, but it's wonderful. And I agree with Yaja that these three individuals are putting something together that speaks to the other talents and gifts, to Ms. Jackson's point, that are latent sometimes within our people. It is not necessarily sports related, and there's nothing wrong with sports. Sports is great, but these things need to be cultivated, and they rarely are. Ms. Jackson, you want to say something?
I did. I'm sorry. Going back to what you actually stated, we do theater, dance, production, stage. Am I missing anything, brother? We do just enrichment before we even
All
jump
music.
into the arts. Every music, we do the history of it, but we also do enrichment before we start with homework, with also just letting them know that education is always going to be the forefront before we jump into everything else. But yes, all of us are skilled in at least one specific art, and we take and we make it one big ensemble. I am learning music. Everybody know in my heart of hearts, I really should have been a singer. I can't sing word for lick, but in my heart, I make a joyful noise. I'm a blend on in when we get our big choir, but we all have our specific arts, and that's the best thing. So we're hoping to even expand even more with actual drawing, photography. But this is just, I don't even want to say the basics, but this is just actually the platform to open up, to have people come and say, oh goodness, can we go ahead and do a yoga class with you all? Can we do a drop in? Or we might write and send a picture to Debbie Allen and say, hey, we do have children who want to do this. Can you come and just bless us with your knowledge and do things? Like, we want to be able to tell our children, reach out. Closed mouths don't get fed. So if you know that you believe, because I tell my kids, you're your own product. Sell yourself, because nobody else is not going to put you on there but you. So create, produce, share, show. So we're there. All of our many confidence that we have, we each have confidence, but we each show love. And we want them to know that it's okay. Push it forth.
Thank you so much. Let me jump in real quick. We have two more comments one from Ms. Yaja. So we do it, I haven't done it in a while, but we do this, it's a symbol, it's called nuggets. And so our audience and our family, like Ms. Yaja, whenever someone's kicking facts and knowledge is something that resonates, we do nuggets. So Ms. Yaja says nuggets from Mr. Richey about what you said. Thank you, Miss Yvette Reed. Yvette Michelle Reed says, I'm doing a living museum project with Black inventors with my second graders. Wonderful. Thank you, Miss Yvette Reed. And it's those kind of things that if we don't, because let's just be honest, the answer is really quick. There really is no robust curriculum for Black history. And really, if we're to be honest, it should be incorporated. This is not our ancestors' fault. This is not Carter G. Woodson's fault. He's just taking what he could get. Okay, but if you incorporate, like Mr. Richey said, these things to everyday life as part of everyday American culture, everyday world culture, there would be no need, because everybody would understand that the folks that are the creators in so many things here and for thousands of years prior to ancient kingdoms and empires prior would be a part of the conversation. That would also decrease a lot of these stereotypical tendencies that we have, unfortunately, in this world. Michael Chaney, thank you for joining us. Nuggets from Miss Shoshana, Miss Jackson, and Erica Lay. and Mr. Richey. Thank you, Michael Chaney, for those nuggets. Thank you all so much for joining us. Please continue to share this live with these three stalwart educators, young educators who are looking to bolster our young people into the future with knowledge, current and past and future of Black history. Let's go to Yaja's question, and I'll put it on the table. I will start with you, actually, Mr. Richey. And she says, what obstacles do you all foresee in the near future, given the age we are in with whitewashing history in the U.S.? And correct me if I'm wrong, Yaja, but Ms. Yaja's probably talking about the legislation that's the fight going on with trying to erase some of the Black historical facts that are going on right now. Mr. Richey?
It's gonna be on and popping. That's what I foresee. It's gonna be it's going to be, my gosh. I'll say it like this. I'm trying to figure out how do I want to say these words. Anytime that there is real truth present, it is going to be some hardcore opposition. Hardcore. Mr. Richardson, you said it perfectly. These are not just things that just happen. It was a pocket here or a pocket there or a pocket there. These are literally things that happen every day. And if you take away those facts that happen every day, you are going to have a picture that is absolutely insane. I foresee a lot of what's going on today. And if we are referring to that specific situation, I've been kind of following that a little bit. I need to dive some more into it. But I've been kind of following into that. And I think certain circumstances that have happened in the past 5 to maybe 7 years, because there are so many more people, again, there's that bravery thing. The more people are bold enough to jump out there, the more people will latch on. And so that's why we have some of these legislative things going on to take out this, to take out that. The more you're jumping out there with it. And this is I guess you can say this as an encouragement or however you want to take the words, I'll leave the words up to you. If they're going to jump out, yeah, you might want to jump out too. Because if they're going to jump out and push back on, I'm not going to say they, because I just like that. My students be like, there y'all go with that word again. So if it is being thrown out there and it's being pushed back that, we don't need to add this and we don't need to add that and we don't need to add that. There was let me finish this thought first. There also needs to be another set of a group that is going to jump out and say, no, this does need to prevail. This does need to happen. And somebody can correct me on my facts if I'm wrong, I'm not wrong to correction. But if you take a look at over in the other side of the world, when the Holocaust is taught, they don't not teach that because they never want history to repeat themselves. They talk about what happened, who were the major people that were involved. And I was a young kid when I learned about the Holocaust and those particular events. And when I didn't know I wanted to be an educator at that time, I was teeter-tottering between a lawyer and a musician. And so I was teeter-tottering between those particular things. And when I kind of learned about that, I was looking at how education was over in the eastern part of the world. When their history is taught in those particular events, they tell all of the details. They don't spare anything. And the question came to my mind, well, why are we sparing things here? That's just my question. Why are we sparing certain things here? And so I personally feel that all of the blatant history needs to be taught. Just lay it all out there and let's figure out the facts, because somebody's going to be bold enough to say, well, and that's how you would spark change and you inspire people, because somebody just might rise up and say, hey, that shouldn't have been. What can I do better what can I do to help better this situation, or to see that this never happens again? We talk about growing the future, children are the future. If we don't deposit all of the knowledge into them, they're going to probably make some of the same mistakes, and they're not going to give the chance to say, hey, I want to do something different. There should never be a set model as to how the next future or the next generation grows up and does the same thing. If those words are coming out right, they probably might not be coming out right, but there should always be, somebody should say, hey, I don't want to do it that way, because if it's been done that way for 40 years and it's not working, let me try my hand at it. And so that's the kind that, let me try my hand at it. Let me put my hand to this and see what works. And so I use that Holocaust example because it's taught who did what, why it happened. It gets the thinking, and it's not spared. And so I don't think it should be spared over here. So do I foresee challenges happening? Absolutely. But again, I think it's going to take those brave people that if it's going to be pushed back on, push back again. Let's just have a nice big tug of war until somebody falls in mud, because it's necessary. It's vital for all of the history to be there. And the last thing, I will not quote it right because I'll probably quote it wrong, but I think Miss Lay, you got to help me with the quote. If the hunter paints the story, the lion will always be painted as the victim. The words are not coming, but that particular proverb right there, that particular saying, depends upon who to, definitely. You got to,
sure. Yeah.
Somebody said it correctly.
No, you're right. I mean, the victim. Yes, I was gonna, okay, you add to that, and then Miss Jackson, you think about this question. What can parents do at home? Go ahead, Miss Lay, and then Miss Jackson, that's your answer.
So one of the big things was, okay, so you can't erase what does not belong to you. So the real question is, are we as African Americans willing to fight for those things to become the norm?
Come on now.
One of the biggest parts of it is that it's a lack of accountability.
Yes.
Every other culture that has been in a situation of some sort of systematic oppression or some large scale catastrophic event has received some sort of reparation, some sort of something that shows some semblance of them even acknowledging this is what we did to you and it wasn't right. And I feel like for African Americans, a lot of those things are swept under the rug because nobody wants to say, okay, we did this and we were wrong. There's always some loopholes like, oh, well, this is how this was going, or, this is politically how these things kind of strung together, even with the freeing of slaves. Like a lot of people, and I'm not going to jump on the soapbox on that, but there are a lot of people that attribute that to Abraham Lincoln and not knowing that the inner workings of that was not the intent. So even just those things, those misconceptions have allowed our people to sit and be put on the back burner for things that I need to know. Like I need to know that there's certain things even that I'm genetically predisposed to because of my ancestors, because of the conditions that they live in. Though even those very things that people do not understand and they don't know. And part of it is really sad because we have the generation now of grandparents that are a lot younger, and we have the grandparents, which are the baby boomers, that are now dying off. And a lot of them were raised by grandparents and great grandparents that were a part of that rich history. So now we are running into the obstacle of that generation dying off, and the baton is never passed, because a lot of times that information is something that we don't talk about. If you didn't get formal schooling or you weren't around someone that knew the right information, if you did get formal schooling, your whole mindset of it, or us as a culture, because we always attribute our history back to slavery. Oh, we were slaves. Yes, but before we were slaves, we were kings and queens. And just that conception of your identity, even that little piece and understanding that is the only way that we're going to be able to bridge that gap, because it does not start, our history does not begin with slavery. It doesn't end with slavery. But a lot of people want to put us in a box, and that's just something that it infuriates me, because when I look at even like Brother Richey was saying with the Holocaust, y'all want to talk about all these different things and who did it and why and what happened here and what happened there and how your people were put in ghettos and all of that. And I'm not diminishing it by any means what happened, but we had similar conditions. In some situations, it was worse. And that's something that people, they get so upset, like, oh, well, how could you? No, because those are two very, very unfortunate events. And you can't weigh one more than the other because they were both wrong. So I think with us, just as educators now, it's a thing of, as you said, practicality and putting those things in every day, instilling that into them. I love the fact that Ms. Berry came up with the 4 empires, and then just the piece of them understanding now that my identity goes further back than the piece of it that you've been giving me. Those little pebbles that you gave me actually pave a road to something that is far greater than anything of any identity that you could have shaped with just the little pieces that you gave me. So I think that is something that we have to really, really just understand, that there's no history for them to erase because it does not belong to them, but it is up to us to keep that rich history alive and to educate one another in the proper way. And it may, for some families, it may be a painful thing. You might, because even looking through my family's ancestry, we realize that there are some pieces that fit together in their puzzle that we were not expecting. We were not really prepared to understand the real inner workings of how we got to where we are. And even with last names like that's a major thing that people don't even realize. Your last name may not even be your last name, but just understanding that part of your history is not something that we're going to sweep under the rug. It's not something that we're going to erase. And we're also not going to excuse it for the fact of just being polite and trying to fit in with the status quo. It is something that we have to address. Those involved need to be accountable to what was done, and then we can move forward.
Thank you so much, Miss Lay. I really hate to stop y'all. I really, really do. We're gonna have to have you back on. We're running short on time. Miss Jackson, please help aid the parents at home, because probably the same Black history that the parents read about, the 5, you said the matriarch and the patriarch, we probably named 5 to 7 blessed, beautiful, heroic people nonetheless, but that's probably the same 5 that they're receiving now. What can parents do to advance their understanding of who Black people are as a people and a culture?
Stop living afraid. And I say this to say, Black history has become taboo. Being able to put our own people out there has been, should I say that? Is it okay to say that our race created this, or we thought this better, or we articulate this a little bit better? As a mother first and an educator, I oftentimes toggle back and forth with delivery and tone. My colleagues will tell you. I run my classroom like I run my home, decency and in order. And nothing bothers me more than ignorant people. And people have to understand that ignorance means lacking knowledge. So when you understand that you were growing up with a misconception as a parent now, or you grew up with questions or ponderings, thoughts and concerns, it's okay to say to your children, ask them. When my children were 3, we would go to the library, and I made it our duty to go to the black part. Yes, I did. We skipped over Goosebumps and Harry Potter. That came later. But it's important for them to know who they are. Our society struggles with identity crisis because they don't know who they are. And not knowing who you are adds in doubt, which then adds in, I don't want to know. So I want to just delay or not learn about it. So I'm going to just stick to the cookie cutting of history. I think one of the biggest things that stood out to me as we were talking, I was texting my brother and sister as we were speaking, that curriculum, it got to go back there. Like brother said, we got to be brave enough. Now, everybody tell you as an educator, I am not the traditional educator. I think outside of the box because I meet my children where they're at. But I also understand that there is history that has been written, lies on it though. Or I'm only going to teach you based on what I think you should know or what I think is right, because we don't want to open up Pandora's box. No. If we're going to tell the truth, tell the whole truth, folks. You ain't got to cookie cut it because it's in the bloodline, it's in the genealogy, it's in the history, it's in the systemic racism. It's even in our content and what we teach. Matter of fact, it's in our education system. In high school, you can take Black history. In 5 through 8, you just take history. So I was thinking, why is there a shortage in Black history? Why is it taboo? So I think that should be put on parents. We can be vocal about everything else, but why can't we be vocal about the history, about what my children need to be taught? When I was in college, I was one of those boisterous students, and I remember having a Caucasian teacher teach Black history, and you could tell it was just, let me touch the surface. She was timid teaching it because she was teaching to a whole lot of Black people. And I don't by any means take anything away from any race, but there's a thing called culture in delivery. If you're going to teach a thing, teach it, but know the facts. I do not think people who get degrees have the audacity to even teach on something that they themselves block out. So as parents, we rise up for the right and wrong things, but we have to rise up for the right thing, which is our children's education with history. That should be in the curriculum. Yes, our babies need to read and write, but our babies need to know who they are and where they come from. They're not that individual or that basketball player. They come from greatness. They come from a genealogy. We built this nation, and it bothers me to think that we can't even wrap our hands around the money that's there for us. So the grants, we got to go ahead and rob Peter to pay Paul just to be seen, to be able to be put out there for a vision. But it's us that created this. So as parents, we have to ask ourselves, are we going to be timid or are we going to be brave enough? Because it has to start from the house. If it doesn't start from the home, we can't put that pressure on Brother Richey or Mr. Richey or Mother Lay on me, because I know how I teach my children. And then we also got to teach our children it's okay to voice in decency and in order and respect. But it's not, you can question. You can say, I don't know if I agree, or can we elaborate specifically when it comes to history? Because like Mother Lay said in the beginning, there's a big misconception with Abraham Lincoln. Oh Lord, yes it is. And let me tell y'all something. Anybody who knows my oldest son and my only son, he fought me tooth and nail about that, y'all. To the point that it opened up a long month of research on this for him to really shift what his teacher told him based on what mommy said. So as a parent, you're battling the educator, but you can't go against the educator, and the educator can't go against mom, because at some point both of you are right, but then you have to come to understand what's factual. And that's, as a parent, we have to decide, where are we going to make our stand? Are we going to take that brave stand and say, hey, look, this is what we want to see in the classroom?
Yes, and we are going to have to leave it right there. Where are we going to make our stand as parents? Thank you all so much. We have to have you back because I cut Miss Jackson off in mid-thought, and I know tomorrow I'm only going to get a little bit of it, and I want all of you to get all of it. Last comment, because this is someone that wrote in, Tamar Kinchlow says, yep, reading and writing is important, but they need to know there once was a time when we were kept from learning how to do it. We were feared so much that they were afraid for us to know more. Miss Erica Lay, Mr. Shauna Jackson, Mr. Darren Richey, it has been an honor. Thank you all so much for bringing your gifts, your talents, your intelligence, your articulation to this program. And I'm so glad that folks got to see that our young people are in the hands of a bright future because of you all, especially at Fort Worthington. But let what you all are doing for no additional cost or for no additional reputation be a spark to other folks to start up like-minded academies in their own backyards, homes, and schools. Thank you all so much. I really, truly appreciate you all. Family, thank you all. I want to say thank you to Yaja, Tamar, for joining us this evening. Michael Chaney, of course, and Yvette Michelle Reed. Please share this live. And we will see you Thursday on Tyrone's House. Want to invite you three to come on by Thursday, same time, same link to Tyrone's House. Tyrone is the host. I will be shutting up and listening, and he will be doing the talking. But family, thank you so much for joining us. And as always, take good care of yourself. Peace.
Thanks for having us.